Guys, I know that there's so much going on in the world. Uh, Mentioning Ryan's not going to be with us today, but Ryan and I were talking about this on Tuesday. Cycle has sped up so much, but then you always have to look, when does it pause? And right now we've had, granted, there's a little craziness going on and things are happening, but that's to be expected. We're not. This isn't going to change, as I've said over and over again. More in 2024. We haven't seen anything yet. We are going to be in store for who knows what. Now that we're 95 days out from Election Day, we know that. Well, the title of the show is pretty simple. That it's not what you think. The end game and how we're going to manifest is not an earthly ending to the story. It's a biblical, spiritual ending to this story. God's not through yet. In fact, I believe that we are going to see a revival that's never happened before in the history of this planet. And that's going to transpire here over the next few years. It is going to be something that is biblical because we're told that there will be end time revivals and more people will come to know the truth. And obviously, we're not living the truth. We're living what we referred to as bizarro world, an alternate reality, the land of make-believe. In fact, we're going to hear more about that. My wife's going to come on towards the end of the show and give kind of an accounting of what we've actually lived through in just a matter of a few years here, over the time that Joe Biden has been in office. And yes, I do believe that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and anyone who subscribes to their way of revolutionizing our constitutional republic here in the United States of America are acting out of the same spiritual deviance. They have been possessed. They are living in the land of demons. I don't know how else to look at it, because you look at what they subscribe to, you look at what they adhere to, you listen to them and what they're willing to openly confess from their lips. And it isn't Jesus, and it isn't God. And in fact, it isn't even Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. They are confessing things that are so far beyond what I believe is reality that, we're sitting back in awe. So when we're walking around, when we're moving around the craziness of this, we have to be ever present, ever mindful that God is not through. We know the end game. The end game is Jesus returns to this earth. It'd be nice to hear more about that from Christian political commentators, opinionators. Namely, I know Tucker talks about it a lot. I appreciate Tucker for doing that. Dan Bongino dabbles in it a little bit. I know where his heart's at. I believe him to be a Christian person who's just close to all the. Sometimes it's hard to remove himself from it. I know that he just recently went on a vacation 4th of July with his family, took a week off, and ran a bunch of You can't plan. Okay, sorry about that. We're back. Had a little glitch here, but what's to be expected? We're traveling in northern Kentucky right now, which I know I'm looking at my bars. It's 2 bars on a 5G. But as I was saying, and I don't know how much of that, cut off and how much you picked up on, so you might just be jumping back in. At the end of the day, we as Christian people know how things are mapped out biblically. We are expecting things to get crazy. The fact that they're trying to create division amongst our society, that's just not here. This is something that's been going on for generations now. Specifically in our country, it's taken place over the last 70 years. In fact, can be tracked all the way back to the beginning of the 20th century, in the early 1900s. That this slow gravitational pulling towards a different way of life, a different America. It's been going on forever. So prophecy is what we lean into. We know biblical prophecy tells us that these events that are transpiring, they're walking themselves out right before our very eyes. Obviously, I didn't comment a lot on Tuesday about the opening ceremonies of the Olympics because I don't expect anything different than debauchery, depravity, immorality. That's the only thing they can bring from the left, as I just was saying. It's demonic. As Christian people, if we're people of faith, we're going to believe there is Satan and there is God. That's just how it walks itself out. God is ever present. He's omnipotent. However, we also know, living on this earth, that Satan has a firm grasp. He is the ruler of the world. It's not me saying that. It's Jesus said it, that the dark one, he controls this. And there is a reckoning for that. And the beautiful thing is we know it is going to change, and it's going to change quickly. if ever you thought things were changing quickly, like in the last 10 days, historically, they are, an assassination attempt. And now, if you're following any of that, the new video, the congressional testimony by the director of the Secret Service, these folks are literally sitting there. They look normal. They sound normal. But what's in their heart is demonic. It's full of lies. These people are lying, bold-faced lies, right in front of Congress, which, under oath, is what they call perjury. But all of that is off the table. We're seeing that walk itself out in Joe Biden's America, where you disregard law and order, where you disregard a Supreme Court, where you make it up as you go. In fact, Vice President Kamala Harris just said the other day that in a Harris administration, God forbid, but it is still possible, once again, it looks like she's going to be the nominee unless something else happens, which I'm not ruling that out. I said that on Tuesday's show. We're not guaranteed a Democrat nominee, a Democrat presidential nominee of Kamala Harris. That could also change. Who knows what is going to happen? August 19th is when the DNC convention starts in Chicago. Hold on. As President Trump said a few weeks ago, you better hold on to your britches. And I love that saying because we don't know what's going to happen. But what we do know is this, that God is sovereign. God is ever present. He's omnipotent. He is ultimately in charge of everything. All of this is walking itself out in a manner that I believe is biblical. Some people are looking at it and saying, well, I don't know if this is necessarily biblical. I don't necessarily know if the revelation of the Bible is specific to talking about modern times. What I encourage you to do is get into a faith study of the books from Genesis to Revelation, specifically end time theology. I know there's a lot of people that disagree with that. Okay. I just would love to have an open discussion about what it says and what you believe. I did turn I have the comments on. Do I have my comments on? Yeah, I do. But all of this is going to continue to walk itself out in a different way. I started telling the story with the video that surfaced of the assassin who was literally walking the rooftops just to the 3 o'clock of President Trump if he's facing the crowd in Butler, Pennsylvania. So 12 o'clock being straight ahead of him, 6 o'clock behind. To his right hand, which is the side of the body that got hit by the bullet, is his 3 o'clock. And that's where this video from a cellular camera was being filmed of the assassin, the suspected shooter, walking across the roof. And no one saw that. No one on the ground, no one in any of the details that were there to protect President Trump. It's surely maddening, as I was mentioning, the testimony from Director of Secret Service, Rowe, and how he was so evasive and manipulative in his comments and his statements, and at one point even got a little perturbed with Senator Kennedy. And I think he needs a kind of a course in protocol, because you're not there to question the senators. The senators are there to question you. You're to give direct answers. And you can't be upset when they ask you for direct answers and you're unwilling to provide those direct answers. I know there's a few rabbit holes and I am driving, so I'm taking in all the beauty and splendor of God's green earth as we're driving, and so many things come into the title of the show is a little hard to handle, because I know that a lot of us get so caught up in the world as we know it, and it's hard, even hard for myself to say, God, is this really you? Walking the world out as we see it, in real time. And I think it is. And that's what I want to encourage you to kind of continue to look at. I mean, the news cycle since Tuesday, pretty simple. The Biden administration is going all in. There is such a short period of time before they no longer have the White House. I think they sense that there's a good chance that they will lose the election on November 6th. We will wake up to a President Trump rather than a President whomever. And I know that they're trying to go all in and get as many things done as possible. The deal that they created with the terrorists is obviously those that masterminded the 9/11. They've already cut a plea deal, which is, to me, I don't even know how to get your head around that. Obviously, all the traffic. There we are, back at it. As I was saying, if you lost me on that, sorry about this. We knew it was going to be spotty, trying to do the DPB show from the car. Of Bluegrass State, Kentucky. We're going to experience probably some hit and miss when it comes to our live feed on StreamYard. So thanks for staying with me. But here we have Putin, who continues to be, somewhat melded with Donald Trump, but yet he's negotiating with the Biden administration. And most of everything that has transpired with Biden's administration, Putin's never had any pushback on that, which is very interesting that Biden is so all in on Ukraine, but yet Putin seems to be the one who is favorable more so to Biden than to Trump, specifically speaking, during the hearings or during the impeachment hearings when it dealt with Putin. Where was Putin at in coming to the defense of Trump? Where's Putin at when it comes to the favorability that he seems to have for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? It's interesting. So many other things are going to continue to come up as we walk this thing out. I see my wife has a comment in there. Conservative cat. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me full circle, because I wanted to get that out before we get to Cat. She's going to be jumping on. So Conservative Cat's going to be jumping on with us, which is going to make my life a lot easier as I'm navigating the highways and byways of Kentucky. And she's going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about this with Cat. She's back on the radio now. There was about a 6-month period of time where she was off. Conservative Cat is 6 to 8 on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. She's going all in on all of these things. But it brings up a good point, and my wife and I were discussing this here as we departed from our home, that young people, they've never seen anything different than what we currently see. When we talk about generations, we have the advantage. Me, is 60 years of age, I have the advantage of being born 2 months or 2 months before President Kennedy was assassinated. Growing up as a small person in the 60s, then, into my teen years of the 70s, and then the 80s as a young adult, and in the 90s, and then the turn of a millennium. To have that experience, and then to see what's going on now, and then interweaving that with what the Bible says and what Scripture says, and what is truly prophecy. They don't have that advantage as this generation, like conservative Cap, people in their early 20s, especially people in high school right now, even those who were born in the 90s, the late 90s, the early 2000s, the people born in the late 80s. What were they able to experience? What did they see? This is all they know. This whole thing's manifesting itself out right before their eyes. And they've seen nothing different. They don't know the America prior to the time that they were born, other than what might be told in a history class, a civics class. And really, in the current educational system, I doubt that over the last 20 years, high school classes over the last 20 years, very little of true history, rather than a revisionist form of history, was being taught in our public school system. We know, obviously, now that the leading, even though they denied it, they didn't want to talk about CRT, they didn't want to talk about DEI, but now we know that is everything as it pertains to all of our institutions, whether it's government, Hollywood, education. Everything is about DEI. And I think that is also biblical, and something that that we know was going to happen. Hold on for a second, I gotta merge over. I got some guy that wants to play bumper cars on the interstate. That's never a good thing. I don't advise doing that. That's usually doesn't lead to any good outcome. Driving up as close as you can to somebody's bumper is not a good way of. It's definitely not something I learned in the rules of the road. Oh, and we've got somebody off the side of the road. Speaking of that, right now, getting some roadside assistance. I could just take you on a journey with me, but obviously we're going to run out of time. Hold on, I got to see if we're getting close. Nope. I'll let you know when she's in studio here. My wife says she can let me know. That is true. I forget that my beautiful wife, it's good to have her joining me now that she's retired from teaching and has been able to come alongside me and do a little bit of the work that needs to be done during the DPB show. That way I don't get my hands going and my train of thought off, even though my train of thought's off right now because we lost feed to the video. But let me just go through the quick show notes here to make sure that I've hit upon everything. My wife doesn't like it when I say that, even though some of the best people do. We want to make sure that we have covered everything that we prepare, because it's part of when I'm sitting back and putting together a show, and especially when there's a larger period of time between Thursday and Tuesday, and granted, we don't have a lot of snippets and videos because they're out there. As I encourage you, go out, I do the research. X is great. All you have to do is pull up Maze More, at Maze More, M-A-Z-E, More, M-O-R-E, Maze More. RNC Research is another great site. The War Room, Trump War Room, is another great place to go. Sean Davis has a lot of great content. The Federalist. That's on the X side. Of course, Bongino, Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk. Those guys are all dedicated. Charlie's especially, as it deals with being a Christian in this world. As a young person, hats off. If ever you were down or not long on America, turn on Charlie Kirk, Turning Point Action, and see what he's putting out there. Jack Posobiec, great, insightful young man who was formerly in naval intelligence. So he's seeing a lot of this through a whole different perspective. That's what I love about Dan Bongino. The fact that he was Secret Service for 12 to 13 years. He knows the inside out of what is
Can't hear whenever you're ready.
What has happened, specifically in Butler, Pennsylvania. So my wife is saying that Kat is on, so
Did it.
Oh, did you just do it? Okay, my wife just did it. Where's she at?
Okay.
Nope.
Hi there. How are you, David?
Hey there, hold there.
Hey there, oh there. Driving? Are you driving?
Everybody, I was just saying, Kat, and we're talking about Charlie Kirk and a young perspective on the world right now, as it, when everything that you see in front of you is happening, but yet you don't have a real world experience to what it was like prior to the early 80s, how the world existed before this onslaught, this juggernaut of indoctrination of people, and the literal peeling away of faith from a culture. All you've seen is that was in your face, and now, especially as your eyes continue to expand and you're awake, you're doing it in real time on your show, Conservative Cat.
I sure am. Yeah, talk about it. I was just on the phone with my brother. We are twins, so he's also 25 years old, and he did not know about Kamala Harris and the woman that she had open for her Atlanta rally. That's what is her name? Megan Thee Stallion, and she was twerking. And then I read the lyrics for my brother, and we were just like so shocked on the phone. He goes, "Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Kat, but I'm tearing up. I feel so much emotion hearing about the N word, the S word, the A word this, shake my booty." It's quite literally the song that they performed right before Kamala got on was Booty. That was the name of the song. So it just goes to show you how faithless society and culture is now. Especially, I don't know if that resonates with young people, that song and that artist, if that was the selection Kamala made because she wants to resonate with younger audiences. But I don't know. I do. I've never really enjoyed any of that music. My brother didn't know who she was. I didn't really know who she was. I've heard the song on the radio before.
Well, and before this person, who is obviously a mainstream cultural person amongst a certain specific demographic, and we know about demographics being in the radio, they're trying to attract themselves to 18 to 35-year-olds. I don't think that you're going to find that there are a lot of people over 35. There might be some, very few, that represent. Cardi B was used during the Biden campaign as someone to try to connect with in the hip hop culture, the rapping culture, and you're right. I believe it's immorality. I've said this. I've posted many times on social media that I will not applaud immorality.
I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Greek mythology and it's not supposed to be what you think it is, which brings up a good point. Kat, isn't it interesting that the people that are telling you that the opening ceremony of the Olympics was really not a depiction or a mockery of the Last Supper, that those are the same people that were telling you that Joe Biden was mentally fit for office?
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, David. I had tried to tell folks about this social media post. So the woman, her name is Barbara Butch, and she was in the middle there of that opening ceremony. She's got the halo and the blue dress on. She's the large woman, and on her own social media, David, she called it the New Gay Testament. So, like, in the New Testament, that's when the Last Supper happens, okay? So, like, I don't know who they're trying to fool, because the woman who was a part of the actual performance called it the New Gay Testament. So, I mean, clearly that's a play on words. Those are play on words of the New Testament. We know as Christians, the New Testament is the Bible, where the Last Supper happened. So to try to say that it was Greek mythology is just silly, because the performers themselves admitted openly on their social media that it was a parody of it was a gay parody of the Last Supper, or of the New Testament. So, I mean, come on, who you fooling, folks? No one.
Yeah, and you can call it whatever you want to call it, but scantily dressed people depicting.
That's being modest, David. That man, I saw it. I was it his nards? I think it was his nards. They were painted that blue sparkly paint. I swear to God, I saw a nutsack. Well, I don't know. I swear. I mean, was it a nutsack or was it not? Come on, David.
Yeah, well, the thing
don't be modest here. We all know what we saw.
It doesn't surprise me to one bit, because prophecy and a lot of the books of the New Testament, I don't know if anybody up on stage or anybody in the opening ceremonies that was reliving whatever they believed they were reliving, if they truly have read some of the books of the New Testament, where it talks about, this is prophecy, where it talks about what's going to happen ahead, how men are going to manifest themselves, men and women, and what they're going to participate in, the immorality, everything. Everything is on the table for, earlier in the show, Kat, I was mentioning that the way I look at the world now, I don't believe there's a lot of gray. I think it's black and white. You're either deeply committed to a sovereign God, to being obedient to God, to living a life out in grace and mercy for humanity through the love that we for Jesus Christ. So when you're not of God, it must be of the evil one. And that's where it's fascinating that more people that's why I appreciate Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec, Dan Bongino, Tucker Carlson, even Mark Levin. Mark Levin talks a lot about his faith as a Jewish man. In fact, he's had to be on guard lately because they're killing Jews at an alarming rate. We haven't seen the amount of anti-Semitism since, they're the ones who always call everyone Hitler and a dictator, but yet we're seeing real life genocide happening right before our eyes, as it did before, which is the Jewish people are the chosen, God's chosen.
Yeah, and it's
Go ahead.
becoming increasingly so where you start to see, and I am in no way trying to rip on the Syrian people or the Muslim people in any kind of way. So full disclosure to those of you watching, that is not what I'm saying, David. You know me, I'm not trying to rip on them. However, I will say in Great Britain, we saw this. History is repeating itself. In Great Britain, they're dealing with Syrian refugees or whatever, not even refugees. They're dealing with an open border crisis like we are. And they're dealing with a
Immigrants. They're
Muslim
going to call them
population.
immigrants. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Refugees.
dealing with a Muslim population there who are raping and pillaging their communities in an alarming rate. And we saw this back in Germany years ago. So history is repeating itself where you start to see, and it's just becoming increasingly so, where there's these Muslim communities or populations where they go into these countries and they start raping. And I'm worried about our own open border crisis where you could possibly see the same thing. These sleeper cells where this Muslim population, and because the culture is different. They say celebrate cultural differences or whatever, but their culture says that that's okay. Raping women is okay. Not the entire Syrian culture. I want to be clear on that, but the terrorist culture, that they think that stuff is okay. And you're starting to see it just ramp up, and that's prophecy, right? We know Ishmael's. There is, I think in Revelations, now correct me if I'm wrong, where a lot of the Middle Eastern countries at the same time will go after Israel. Well, a lot of the countries, not even just Middle Eastern, a lot of the countries, they'll just go after the Israel.
Because I muted myself. Yes, you're correct. I muted myself because I was trying to say something to my wife. Miss Producer. But you're right. The whole depiction of what will happen in the end times is where countries will continue to try to consume the chosen people, the chosen territory, the place where Christ will return on this earth, where it's believed that Christ will be returning. And that's going to play itself out. But also, what's going to play itself out is this modern time revival, where more people will come to know Christ before Christ's return than at any period of time in the world's history.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that. No, I'm excited for that. I'm excited about the revival. Trump before the trumpet. Oh. Come on.
Not the trumpet. Yes.
Oh, I think you cut out a little bit. We'll give him a quick second here, folks. You're listening to the DPB show. Be sure to subscribe to the show.
There you are. Did you notice that we were off screen for a while there?
Just a little, yeah. I was telling people to go subscribe.
Oh, you're awesome. Well, I want to get to your show too, and kind of what has transpired since you came back onto the radio. I think it's something that's needed, especially in the central Illinois area. But just a little more of a note on the prophecy and what's transpiring and this great revival that's ahead of us, and why it is we should not let our hearts be troubled, because we know what the end game is. We know Jesus is coming back. And yes, there's going to be a lot of craziness before that, but it's nothing like what's going to transpire when we're no longer here. Those that are still here on this earth after Christ's return, they've got the literal trials and tribulation the real tribulation. That's why I encourage, if you want to know what life is like on earth after Christ has come, go and read Revelations. Go and read the book. Find a good biblical scholar that can interpret that. Now, there are a lot of people that they want to believe that everything else in the Bible is true except for Revelation. Those are not the people you want to be talking to. I mean, there's plenty of them. There's a lot of faith traditions, modern faith traditions, and historical faith traditions that don't believe in end time prophecy and the Bible and what's manifesting itself, which I don't know how you walk around that without believing it to be what it is. Either the Bible is the Word of God or it isn't the Word of God. You can't pick and choose what you believe and what's going to happen and what's not going to happen.
Yeah, you don't get to pick and choose which books are true and not true. I'm excited. I'm excited for the revival. I'm excited for what's to come. The best is yet to come, as Donald Trump always says. I'm very excited. I'm a little worried because things are getting more and more crazy by the minute. With this whole, they killed the terrorist, right? Haiba, blah, blah, blah. He was the Hamas leader, right? They assassinated him. Israel, from last time I saw, they had to comment about it. They had to issue the comment. However, this is going to really ramp up, I think, things over in Israel, either for the better or the worse. I'm hoping for the better, because you and I, David, we're going to Israel, aren't we? We're supposed to.
2025, this time next year, we will have returned from the Holy Land, the land where Jesus walked, which is obviously something that I've always told my wife. That is a dream I've had, and I believe it's a dream that's come from God, that I will walk in the land of Canaan, in the land of biblical times. I will tell you, when I went on mission trips like to Haiti, there was somewhat of an essence in that trip that it felt like it was biblical times. And part of that is because here are people who have so limited resources, but yet had such great joy amongst their suffering, amongst the inability to have air conditioning, which is what we were talking about earlier. Not having the common or the comforts of the lifestyle of America, which we know that we are a very spoiled people. Yes, when we talk about privilege, America is privileged to have things that other countries don't have. Modern medicine, healthcare, education, the list goes on and on and on. But there is definitely a dichotomy, a dual split between what we realize, what Trump calls fake news. I call the land of make-believe, because we reside in the land of Lincoln, which used to be the land of Lincoln. And if you really want to read, I didn't know anything other than a time of suffering, a time of deep moral conviction. He started his life out as someone who didn't necessarily follow God until he finally read enough through Scripture to realize, where did he come up with a house divided cannot stand against it on its own?
Exactly. Well, and
Did I lose you?
A little bit. You were breaking up, but you're good. Well, what was exciting to hear, Donald Trump, he blasted that journalist about the whole fake news, and he goes, "You're with ABC, you're fake news." And you're so right. We're so privileged that I don't even think that we realize what is going on in our country. So I was having this conversation the other day. You've got Vladimir Putin, who's a dictator, authoritarian, yes, and his people, the commoners, or the plebs that you would call in these countries, or even Venezuela, right? Maduro, he's got this fraudulent election and he's declared himself the winner. Those people in Venezuela, they are dirt poor, poverty. They don't have anything to eat, right? Here in America, we don't recognize that we are kind of living through the same thing. It's just our disparities are slightly different. So Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Governor Pritzker, they're billionaires, they're elitists, and they're public sector elitists, which is different than private sector wealthy people. They're getting rich off the backs of taxpayers, and we don't realize it because we have all of these pleasantries. We have things like credit, house loans, car loans, things of that nature, and we don't really understand that we're kind of living in the same third world. It's just masked by all of our pleasantries, I say, where we are, we've got indoor plumbing and things like that, but we're headed down a direction, or in a direction, where we will be exactly like Venezuela, because that disparity is going to grow larger and larger and larger. There is a large disparity because there's a big difference between the average American. I don't know what the average household income is and salary or whatever, and what Barack Obama brings in on a yearly basis, right? So there's a huge disparity right now, but it's masked because of all of our comfort here in the United States and our privileges. But those privileges are not going to last. We have a trillion dollar budget, or in debt.
$35 trillion debt, which you heard nothing in the mainstream media about. We just reached the pinnacle of 35 trillion in debt. Hey, Kat, quick question. Did you put that campaign shirt on of mine just to come on the DPP show?
Oh, I wear it all the time. There it is, David Paul Blumenshine, for state rep. We need you to run for mayor. Who's running for mayor nowadays in Bloomington?
Well,
God,
real
please,
quick, if you haven't heard, you probably heard that Kathleen Lorenz is going to be opposing Chris Coos and Kimberly Cummings in Normal, and that Dan Brady is going to go against Cody Hendrick, and I think Boca is still running, but I can't say for certain. I haven't been up to speed on it.
It's all optics. They're all the same. They're all cut from the same cloth. They're all going to make up like this, like they're running against each other. You guys are not running against each other. It's like you're all cut from the same cloth. Come on. Well, you guys have all been there forever, except in Boca. I mean, I guess he just was recently elected, but...
Yeah, but he sat on the city council.
You've all been in the public sector forever.
Yeah, he sat on the city council. But really what's interesting is these folks all seem to come, when you say cut from the same cloth, there's establishment. There are people who have been hobnobbing, in the same circles for forever. And outsiders to the business, like a Donald Trump, who walked amongst them. Yes, he did. He was at their cocktail parties. But obviously, when he decided to say, you know what, this really isn't that making America better, making America great again, making Bloomington Normal great again, making Illinois great again. JB goes out, and JB Pritzker, he goes on the airways and constantly talks about puffing. And, I don't want to get off of today's show without giving Tanya an opportunity, because I don't know if you heard this video that she shared with me earlier. I don't know who this young lady is. Who is this young lady?
I couldn't find it. I couldn't find who it was. I've seen it a lot on social media, but I haven't seen her name or how to give her kudos.
Well, when we talk about the land of make-believe versus the land of reality, what I term, you can tell a truth but not the truth. We are inundated with that right now, especially when there is definitely a coordinated effort for the modern media, the legacy media, the branch of the establishment government, the deep state, whatever you want to refer to it. When they coordinate, come out with an attack on JD Vance and just call him weird, and everybody's saying the same thing over and over again. We've seen this played out over and over. Everybody's reporting weird. Everybody says it in the context of their reporting. This is weird. These people are weird. They're weird. Why? Why are they weird? They never define what weird is. Weird is not going along with any of their narrative. But here, my wife is going to read off. This is what this young lady said on a YouTube video. And we'll send the YouTube video because hopefully you'll be able to kind of incorporate it into the Conservative Cat Show tomorrow. But go ahead, take it away.
If a guy pretends to be a woman, we are required to pretend along with them. Number 2, somehow it's un-American for the census to count how many Americans are in America. Number 3, Russians influencing our elections is bad, but illegals voting in our elections is good. Number 4, it was cool for Joe Biden to blackmail the president of Ukraine, but it's an impeachable offense if Donald Trump inquires about it. Number 5, people who have never owned slaves should pay slavery reparations to people who have never been slaves. Number 6, people who have never been to college should pay the debt of college students who took out huge loans for their degrees. Number 7, immigrants with tuberculosis and polio are welcome, but you'd better be able to prove that your dog is vaccinated. Number 8, Irish doctors and German engineers who want to immigrate to the U.S. must go through a rigorous vetting process, but any illiterate gangbanger who jumps the southern fence is welcome. $5 billion for border security is too expensive, but $1.5 trillion for free health care is not. If you cheat to go into college, you go to prison, but if you cheat to get into the country, you go to college for free. People who say there's no such thing as gender are demanding a female president. We see other countries going socialist and collapsing, but it seems like a great plan to us. And pointing out all of this hypocrisy somehow makes us racist. It's that frog in the pot, and if you don't know that analogy, you put a frog into water and you turn it on and slowly heats up, he doesn't jump out. If you throw him into water, he jumps out, but we're that frog in the pot that's slowly boiling, and sometimes we have to step back and shake our heads and say, this is not normal. None of that was going on 10 years ago. None of it was normal. None of it was accepted or being pushed into our airways. And sometimes we just have to shake our heads, say this isn't normal, but it is prophecy, which is kind of exciting.
Well, and my wife is an expert on frogs. She's had a frog living on our counter for over 8 years now, so she understands frogs ability to protect them with water. But that just hearing that, isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. Those 13 different points that just contradict themselves, and that's the left. The left is a walking contradiction. Yeah. They know that there's no way you can have a civilized, functioning, free market society. What we currently realize, the land of the free, the home of the brave, doesn't exist in a world according to the people that we're opposing right now, the Kamala Harrises, the George Soroses of the world, the World Economic Forum, the Klaus Schwabs, the Joe Biden, the Obamas, and all the other ilk. Reed, whatever his name is, the tech guy that's funding a lot of this. These people, they don't. It's what is for me, but not for thee.
Yeah. Well, and what really makes me so mad about all of it is everything was so like spot on in that list of 13 different things, but it also peeps me off when they think that the internet isn't forever. Like we can't fact check, or because just today, what was it? AP News, they said that Donald Trump falsely claimed that Kamala Harris, or suggested that Kamala Harris was black. The same outlet, AP News, came out in 2016 and hailed Kamala Harris as the first Indian American to be elected to the U.S. Senate. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The internet is forever. So your hypocrisy and you're just flat out gaslighting the American people constantly. And like things like that make you think that you're crazy. You're like, wait a second. So why would Donald Trump do that? Why would he like try to say that she's black?
It really, in the next statement, Donald Trump said, I don't care if she's Indian or if she's black. But you got to make a choice which one you're going to promote yourself as. It's her ability, I should say, to flip-flop over and over. She shows you that she's a chameleon. No matter what group she's talking with, she's going to identify as that group. And it doesn't matter whether it's black, Hispanic, Indian,
gay. She was on RuPaul's Drag Race.
She was on the trans show where she was basically she's just plain pandering, which is the way of the left right now. J.B. Pritzker does it.
And that's what it goes to show, that they don't think you have a shred of intelligence. They don't think that you will remember that in 2016, or that you have the audacity to even go look and see that AP News printed that headline. They think it's an insult to your intelligence, because what they've done is boiled you down to your physical characteristics or your sexual orientation, and they've dehumanized you. So that's step one. It's dehumanize. Step two is to kill you. I mean, that's what it was. That's what Hitler did. So they talk about fascism all the time, and communism or whatever, or authoritarianism. They are dehumanizing people.
Kat's actually bugged out. I don't see her on the screen.
Oh,
my wife. Oh, there you are. Go ahead. Keep going, Kat.
No, it's just it's a playbook. They boil you down to your identity and dehumanize you, or they boil you down to your physical characteristics and your sexual orientation, and then they kill you. It's straight out of the fascist playbook, where they did that to the Jewish people. They boiled them down to their ethnicity, dehumanized them, and then started killing them. And that's how he got away with it for so long. It's because they were already dehumanized. So if you dehumanize people and boil them down to their physical traits, it's easier to kill humans that way. I mean, that's what it is. Right? If you really get down to it, that's what identity politics. And this is nothing new. It's been, what's really interesting. So real quick, I got to hop off, but the DNC is in Chicago this year, right? So the last time the DNC was in Chicago, it was in 1968. And in 1968, it was Humphrey is the last name. I can't remember his first name.
Herbert Humphrey.
He was a sitting vice president. He, unlike Kamala, went through a primary. But he was a sitting vice president. And at the DNC, there were these mass riots for the anti-Vietnam War. And there were all these riots and things going on. They're expecting riots at this DNC in Chicago because of the pro-Palestinian protesters.
The kill the Jews crowd. The kill the Jews crowd is going to show up in force.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I screw up a lot of the time. I use the left language, and I hate that. But so it's really interesting how history just kind of tends to repeat itself, because then Richard Nixon, who was vilified and criminalized by the media and by the Democrats as well, with the whole scandal there. He won overwhelmingly against Herbert Humphrey. So there you have it. I mean, if it's any indication of if history in fact repeats itself, Donald Trump should win in a landslide.
There's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. That's biblical. That's reality. That is a good way to end this episode of the DPB show. We had said it earlier. I know you agree with this. Don't let your hearts be troubled, because God, Jesus, the Son of God, has gone to prepare a place for everyone who believes in him, who is willing to surrender their lives to him. Jesus won once and for all. He doesn't have to win the victory again. The victory is ours. And that's what we can put our arms around. In the midst of everything that's going on, we can have the assurance that we will join Jesus and all those that love him in heaven someday. Hey, Kat, I know that we're bouncing in and out. We're heading into Tennessee. We just entered Tennessee. So I appreciate you being on today. Kat Peterson is on the Morning Cat show. Well, actually, it's called Conservative Cat from 6 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, right? Monday through Friday, Kat?
Yep, 6 to 8. Thank you, David Paul.
Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. 6 to 8 a.m. You can find Kat there. And Kat, once again, it's always good to have you. Come back on Tuesday. We're going to be back live from our destination we're headed to in Florida. But we will be bringing you comes up. I am going to jump on and give you a little update live from Florida. But I always say it. I love you. Jesus loves you more. And I bid you farewell. Until we see each other again, peace, love, and happiness. Take care now.